Okay. Kenji, are you ready? Sorry, I'm catching you. All right, thank you. Good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the December 23rd, 2025 regular meeting of the Oshtemo Charter Township Board. And at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I guess I'll do that one in a second. All right, at this time, we'll go to item number 3, which is remote location identification for remote attendance when permitted by statute. I see we have the full board before us, so remote location identification is not necessary, and we will move to item 4, which is the township mission, vision, and core values, and I invite a member of this body to share the core value.
I'll share the core value, meet the needs of the present without compromising future generations.
Thank you, Trustee Sikora. So poignant. Next, we'll move to item 5, which is the approval of the agenda. You have the agenda, well, in your packet, or if you picked one up on the way in. Are there any additions, changes, or to the agenda as presented tonight?
Yes, I'd like to ask that item 8A on the consent agenda be moved to a regular agenda item later in the meeting. The board and committee meeting dates. That's
fine. Do we need a motion to move something out of the consent agenda?
Sure. Okay,
all right, thank you. It just occurred to me. That's fine, Trustee Sikora. Do you mind if we, since it's regarding dates and stuff, if we move it after the, or if we discuss it after the item 14, the resolution?
Anywhere is fine.
Okay.
Just so we could have a discussion
Sure.
about it. If there's no other comments on the agenda, I move we approve the agenda then as presented with the one change.
Support. I have a motion by Trustee Sikora and support by Treasurer Bushka. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we move to item number 9. In the packet this evening, we have a resolution presented from the legal department. Oh my gosh, I sure did.
We appreciate you trying to move the meeting along.
You know what? I was so focused on changing that. I knew that agenda item was going to get changed, and I was so focused on it. All right. All right. Let's take a pause. All right. Next, we'll move to item 6, public officials and community partner updates. So do we have anyone here, a community partner or a public official wishing to provide comments to the board? Okay, seeing none, I will close item number 6. And now we will move to item number 7, which is public comment on consent agenda or non-regular session items. And so now is the time, if you wish to make public comment to the board, you are welcome to do so.
Andrea Lundgren, Oshtemo resident. Merry Christmas to everyone. Just a quick comment about the Planning Commission. They had a meeting, their regular meeting scheduled for, I believe it was December 11th, but they canceled it because there were no agenda items. I think that was a missed opportunity by the Planning Department to start the discussion on creating an ordinance for the battery issue, the data centers, all of that. So I wish they would have started that. So that's my comment.
All right, thank you, Andrea. Anyone else wishing to make public comment at this time?
Good evening. I know you guys can't answer questions, but I just printed the board meeting packet. I actually printed it about 4 hours ago, and that was revised on 12/19. The one that I just printed off the website is 12/23. I'm not sure who manages the website or updates the online packets. Just curious what's changed. I mean, when there's 38 pages, it's hard to find what's changed in the last 4 hours. I understand this isn't the first time, and I was told what doesn't matter is not an OMA violation, it's okay to do. I'm just curious what changed, what maybe a board member has missed because it's changed. And I'm getting a blank look, so probably nobody else noticed it either, but I noticed dates and details, and I don't know what's going on there. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else present wishing to make public comment?
I'm Al Garrissey. As far as I know, I could have 9 dummies up there. You guys can't answer any questions for these people that are paying your wages. And I'd like to know, is there a way I can find out what each one of you make and what your benefits are? Maybe by next meeting, we can maybe give that to me. I know you can't now because you have to be a puppet up there because the attorney's gonna pull your chains. And then the sidewalk deal. You know, I called the violation guy on a pickup truck on Cuddington Lane, and I called the supervisor. That truck's been there 2 months, and you're gonna give these people a fine for a sidewalk that's got snow on it, 24 hours? What the? I can walk through snow, I can't walk over a pickup. And then, how much money do we pay for this planning commission? You know, this whole thing. And we got a planning commission, why can't they do this? Everything that planning commission said, you guys are going against. You wanted farmland. Oh no, we're gonna take houses. You got this Allen Edward plant over here. You made minimal lots so you could get more. How much money did you guys put in the pocket from Allen Edward to get those up a couple of extra lots in there? I'd like to know, you know, you talk out of your side of your mouth on half of this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrissey. Is there anyone that's wishing to make public comment at this time?
Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm curious, the last meeting of the Planning Commission that was canceled, I think we were at the point where it was going to be on Thursdays, it was going to be on Wednesdays, we didn't know, we were going to table it, we were going to talk about it, then the meeting was canceled, and Sherry told us at the coffee hour that it's now going to be on Thursdays. Is that true? So we can plan when we will visit with you. Will it be on Thursdays or will it be on Wednesdays? Can you nod your heads? Thank you, Mr. Chapman, I appreciate it.
Any other questions or public comment at this time? Welcome.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Tom Whipple. I'm curious, I've just kind of heard about all this stuff and seen some of this stuff on your website. What is all the secrecy behind this battery plant, and then why officials can't answer our questions? Because I thought you people represented us. You know, that we could get information, or is there something being hid, or trying to push the agenda through, or what's happening with that? Is this something we need to meet with a lawyer head on, or do we have to have a lawyer talk to your lawyer? Or how does this operate?
Thank you, Mr. Whipple. I don't want to inadvertently pause your comments. Do you have further comments besides your question?
No, that was the main concern, and of course what Al actually said too, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
So nothing can be said at this point in time then?
I'm going to explain it after we close public comment, and then I think we'll be able to provide some responses.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment at this time? Okay, at this time, I will close item number 7, public comment. And We've had this conversation about the questions coming from the podium to the board during public comment session, the policies on the back, which reflects the policy regarding public comment on virtually every public meeting board. And I know there's been different experiences, but, and I've talked to some of you about that, but this is our public comment time. And so the board members do listen to what you say, and when it's time for when the board has opportunity to weigh in, we will answer some of those questions. So I'm going to start regarding the Planning Commission cancellation on December 11th. The only agenda item on that meeting that was proposed for that day was whether or not Wednesday or Thursday was going to be the Planning Commission meeting. That resolved that it was going to stay on Thursdays, so the meeting was canceled because it was no longer, there was no longer a question about whether or not it needed to be changed. What's been changed in the board packet? So for, we have been in negotiations with the Sheriff's Department. I know I just saw it. So what changed is a preliminary draft of a sheriff's contract to extend to 2026. It was not desired by the township to move forward as presented. We've been in conversations with the Sheriff's Department and the county board chair and vice chair for a number of days, and as well as the administrator, to get us to a place where we felt that the townships would be in the best place possible for negotiations of a very expensive contract. So what changed was the red line, the addition of the changes that came from the county. We added the red line version and a clean copy to the packet. So that's what changed. And that arrived today, this morning. So that's why, and so I want the board and the public to see the most current contract that's being offered for board discussion. Sidewalks on Coddington. I fully remember the conversation and the frustration regarding our lack of capability to control our own parking on roadways. It is something the board is working on, and I remember the conversation. We do not have the authority at this time to ticket or remove, I believe it's the boat that's parked on Coddington in a truck. But
How do you have authority to tell, to have them, you know, shovel the sidewalk?
So my answer remains the same, that the township does not have control over our roadways. It's either the road commission or MDOT. And we are working most foremost with the road commission to try to get us to a place where we can place some no parking zones in the township. And it's been a long process.
You say the township doesn't have any rule, but I see township.
So I'm going to move on to the next question that was presented to the board, was again regarding the Planning Commission and the cancellation of the Planning Commission. I hope I answered that question for you fully. And again, I will revert back to the policy regarding public comment time is on the back of the agenda. And while I think every member of this body wants to answer the questions, public comment is not a time for dialogue between the board and the public, although we do try to respond to questions in time as appropriate during an open meeting. All of our contact information is there. Anyone is welcome to reach out to us at any time with questions. And so with that, are there any other comments from board members at this time regarding
Yes.
public comment?
Yeah, Sherry, first of all, I want to say thank you for answering some of the questions. I want to reiterate what you said as far as the format of public comment, the 4 minutes of speaking, board not speaking back is something that is across all boards. However, like I said during 2 meetings ago, just because it's the way that it's done, or everybody does it, or we've always done it, doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way. So I appreciate the fact that when we're able to, that you're answering some of the questions. I think it's important that the rules are the rules for a reason, for brevity's sake. We could be here for hours if we have a Q&A. I mean, often we are anyways, but. Oh, I'm sorry. But anyways, I appreciate the fact that as a board, we are willing to make those small changes that, in the interest of transparency. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thanks, Trustee Cole. Any other board member comments on public comment? All right. So we moved the consent agenda. So that item is complete. Now we'll move to item.
No, we just moved the one item from the consent agenda.
You have 2 items left.
There's 2 items left, the
B and C you
consultants
need to approve.
and the meeting minutes. Sorry. I was just moving the discussion of the meeting dates.
You just wanted 8A.
Yeah, just 8A moved for a separate discussion.
Right, we
I was
did
leaving
that.
number-
Attorney Porter said we
Yeah.
didn't need a motion.
Yeah,
for
no,
that.
but we still need to,
We still need to adopt the remaining consent agenda items,
Okay,
right? We're on consent agenda item number 8?
yes.
Okay. I move to approve items 8B and C.
Support.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by treasurer Bushka. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. Next, we'll move to item number 9, a resolution supporting the International Day of Persons with Disabilities and promoting disability-inclusive communities. This resolution was brought forward by Sierra and the legal department for consideration, and so I certainly welcomed it, and I welcome a member of this body to read the resolution into the record, please.
If I could, I would like to read that resolution.
Certainly, Attorney Porter.
My paralegal has a daughter who has disabilities. I have a granddaughter who is deaf in 1 ear, and she suffers from juvenile epilepsy and seizures. So I'm happy to read this into the record. Resolution supporting the International Day of Persons with Disabilities and promoting disability-inclusive communities, dated December 23rd, 2025. Whereas the International Day of Persons with Disabilities is observed annually on December 3rd to promote the rights, dignity, and inclusion of persons with disabilities, and whereas the persons with disabilities in our community are more likely to experience poverty, barriers to employment, and unequal access to services and opportunities, and whereas inclusive communities that respect the dignity, autonomy, and participation of persons with disabilities are essential to social and economic progress, and whereas advancing poverty reduction, employment opportunities, and social inclusion are interconnected goals that require disability-inclusive local policies and practice. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township recognizes its strong support for the observance of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities on December 3rd each year. The Township calls upon local governments, community organizations, and local businesses to adopt and promote policies and practices that ensure the full inclusion, accessibility, and participation of persons with disabilities, affirms its commitment to fostering a disability-inclusive community where all residents can participate fully and equally, encourages disability inclusion in planning, employment practices, service delivery, community programs, supports efforts to improve accessibility, inclusive employment opportunities, and respectful care and support for services of persons with disabilities, and calls upon local governments, community organizations, local businesses, and residents to observe the International Day of Persons with Disabilities through inclusive activities and awareness efforts. And as I read an article today about a young lady who in the mid-1800s was bedridden and was distraught with the fact that she could not reach out to other people in that she wanted to be a missionary, this really comes to heart because a pastor that met with her said, well, God just takes you as you come. And she wrote the hymn that was sung at a number of Christian activities over the years for almost 200 years, which is just as I am. And her name was Charlotte Elliott. So with that resolution, if we could move it.
So moved. Support.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Chapman. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Cole.
Yes.
Trustee Sikora.
Yes.
Trustee Chapman.
Yes.
Trustee Ford.
Yes.
I vote yes. Treasurer Bushka
Yes.
and Supervisor Bell.
Yes,
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
thank you. Removing. Next, we move to item 10. We have a resolution establishing the planning and zoning fee schedule for 2026, and I invite our planning director, Jody Steforia, to introduce this item to the board.
Annually, the planning department staff looks at our fee schedule and evaluates projects that we reviewed the previous year to make sure that the fees we charge for different types of applications are fair amongst different types of applications and that they're equitable to recovering some of the expenses the township incurs in staff time or publications for different types of requests. So we have some changes proposed this year that are shown on the fourth page of this item in the packet, which is the red line version of the changes. And so nothing real big changing. Some of it is really just for clarity, but we have removed the cap on a PUD request and a mixed-use district rezoning request because those shouldn't be limited. If it's by acre, then a smaller project will have a lower fee, but when you get a 48-acre mixed-use project, and that is quite intensive of staff time, then the fee shouldn't be capped. So, but a more traditional rezoning of property owner wants to rezone 20 acres, but doesn't really have a plan for it, then we don't have to take a real hard look at every element of the project until they come back with a site plan in the future. So that makes sense to cap a rezoning for a large project or a large property, but on a mixed-use district or a PUD, they're using, every square footage of that property. So the fee shouldn't be capped because there'll be more staff time. Our staff time internally, working with the road agencies, water and sewer department, or the health department on well and septic. So there's a lot of staff time that goes into some of these projects. And then we're proposing, and this is not unusual, I've seen in other communities, and we do have some repeat offenders, but if you put your freestanding sign up for your customer before you get your permit, then the application fee is doubled because it ends up being more work on our end than if you had just submitted your plans, demonstrated compliance, and got your permit before you placed the sign, then things would have gone smoother. So doubling the sign fee if they place without a permit. And that's really it. We do have a small fee now for accessory dwelling units because while we might only have a $50 application fee, the township incurs recording fees down at the Register of Deeds of some of the documents that we require to be recorded against the property when we allow an accessory dwelling unit, which we allow in all the residential districts, including rural residential. So it's just trying to recover the township's expense incurred. The residents at large shouldn't have to incur those expenses. It should be on the applicant to pay a small fee for the recording expense. So this would be a resolution, and we'll monitor it all year and come back next fall with any updates.
Thank you, Jody. Do you have any questions for the planning director? Okay, thank you.
Would you be ready for a motion, or did you?
I'm going to open public comment.
okay, go ahead.
At this time, if there's anyone here with us in the public wishing to make comment on agenda item number 10, now would be the time to do that.
Hi, my name is Katie Schneider. I live over on Van Cal. As somebody who has gone through the special land use program before, that was so that we could run a hay wagon around our farm property. That's a long and arduous project to go through, a lot of push on that. $700 fee to run a hay wagon around a farm field. I'm just curious why there is only one set fee for special land use. It seemed pretty ridiculous what we went through just for that, honestly, when you look at a lot of things that are in the ordinance as special land use. And I'd like to know a little bit more about this site plan review fee, if applicable. What is that? How much is that? Obviously, in our case, being farmers wanting to run a hay wagon to make $200 over 6 weekends, that would be something people would want to know ahead of time and be able to have an answer on whether or not that's applicable for you and how much that would be. And I would not mind seeing a real review over the special land use, what the fees are based on what you have going on. There's a lot of special land uses. I know the battery energy storage system that we all know quite a bit about. That's a special land use, and I can't understand why that would be the same fee as requesting a hay wagon around a farm field. I'd like to know more about that. People want transparency in fees for sure. Just would like some answers on that. Thank you.
Actually, if you wouldn't mind repeating your second question, because I didn't get it all down. It was about the site plan review fee, but then there's a little bit more after that.
I spoke about the site plan review fee and how much that would be. People are going to want to know that ahead of time, what that applies to, and maybe some more different levels as far as special land use goes. Obviously, there's quite a bit more review that would go into the battery system than a hay wagon.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to make public comment at this time on item 10? Seeing none, I will close public comment on item 10. We'll move into board deliberation on this item. I'm wondering, planning director, regarding the special use fees, what all is involved in calculating that, if you could clarify, please.
Well, the special use fee, the Planning Commission does receive a stipend for attending meetings to compensate them for their time preparing for the meeting, their time spent at the meeting, and any site visits they might do. So some of that fee is just to help offset the cost of holding a Planning Commission meeting, which is part of the reason like December 11th was canceled, to pay each member a stipend and not have an agenda item. And then if and when we adopt an ordinance for energy systems, whether it be wind, solar, or energy storage, that will become its own type of application on this chart. We will amend this fee schedule, and it will be, if we go there, an exorbitant fee, because we're going to incur tremendous expenses hiring third-party experts to review proposals if and when we get there. So I'm already thinking, the escrow alone is going to, be tens of thousands of dollars so that the township recovers any expenses we incur. So don't worry about energy systems in here now. If we do make them a land use allowed somewhere in the township, this fee schedule will be amended. In site plan review, when it says if applicable, as soon as a developer or their engineer or architect has an idea of their project, they reach out and we tell them what the fees is. There's no surprises. And that was just adding that, if applicable, just so they're aware that just because you're a special use doesn't mean you don't need site plan review. Such as, I think maybe a bank with a drive-through is a special use, but they also need site plan review, so they would be paying the special use fee because we'll have to do a notice in the paper and do a mailing, and then they'll pay the site plan review fee. So that would be a project that would have both special use and site plan review.
Thank you. Any other clarifying questions from the board for the planning director?
Yeah, just a quick question following up on that Beth's item. So when an ordinance would be adopted, would that include a step of setting the fee? you know, how does it get onto this?
Well, it would
Schedule.
say, if we do list them as special uses, it would be automatic, and then we'll amend the fee schedule to specifically call out that land use. It'll be another row.
The fee would be defined in the ordinance, though, right?
No, it would just say it's, special use and site plan approval are
Okay.
required. And then you would just look to the fee schedule to see what those fees are for that particular land use.
Okay.
I have a question just on what the last public comment was. So can you give me an example of what the range of special land use requests would be? For example, I'm having a hard time understanding what, I think that she said running
But there was a.
why does that qualify as a special
Well,
land use?
it was agricultural tourism, category 2 was that project, and that's listed in the ordinance as a special use in the rural residential district, was how the property is zoned. So it was already listed as a special use.
Okay, and can you give me an example of some? Oh, I'm sorry. I know, I have a notice right here to speak into your microphone. So can you give me an example on the other end of something that would require the special land use permit that would generate for that person a lot more money? Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to understand the range.
Why is it a flat fee?
Correct.
Whether commercial or residential?
Correct.
Not a good answer, but that's because that's how it's always has been. And like I said, the ad in the paper and the mailing is over $200 of that. And then 7 planning commissioners get a stipend of 100 and something. So it's already like a loss leader, if you will, to process these, plus staff time.
Plus staff time.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not understanding it, but I think that a good point, at least from my understanding, was brought up, and maybe we should be looking at separating the commercial from the non-commercial.
So that's related to the land uses, right? So.
Correct. Yeah, I'm just talking about that one specific,
Well, you have land uses permitted by right, and then you have special exception uses, and then, what's the one after that? I can't remember what it's called.
Well-
You can ask for a change of zoning. So,
We could look at it, because we do on variances, the fee for one-family residential property that might ask for a variance is $300, but a commercial property asking for a variance is $1,000.
okay.
So we do distinguish in some uses, and that could be something we could look into if you want to.
I think we should. I just think, I mean, hearing that, it does seem $700 for something of that small, I guess, nature, for lack of a better word, and they're not generating income, that's, yeah, and I
Yeah.
understand that but do we need to recoup $700 for something that small, I guess?
Well, we can't know when the application comes in, how big is it going to be
Right.
of a category, agritourism category 2 allows far more intense things than occurred on this property this year, but it can grow.
Yeah, no, I don't know if anybody agrees with me, I just think it's something maybe we should kind of revamp a little bit.
well, and another way to tackle it too is, should agritourism be a special exception use that is required for planning commission approval? I mean, that's
a good
another
point.
way to go.
That's an even
at it.
better point, actually, yeah.
So,
And for a little background, I feel like it became a special exception use when we worked on the agritourism ordinance.
it's relatively new.
Because it was new.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, the agritourism ordinance is, I was on the planning commission when we did that. So it's relatively new. And hasn't been tested a lot, I don't think, either.
Right, well, when the mailing went out for the most recent one, we did get phone calls from neighbors that were concerned, so I would hate for a larger scale agritourism just to be a permitted use, and neighbors were never mailed a
Right.
notice.
So, yeah, that's,
I mean, we would have to put clear parameters in as best as we could, but
I think it's always worth a good review, keeping up, just like changing the fee schedule based on what is actually occurring. So I guess I would encourage the planning department to look a little more closely into that, especially this example, and see if we need to have something different or change something or pull those out. It's just a continual review thing that this just came up a little more.
I think it's,
Obvious,
yeah,
yeah.
thank you, Neil. I think it's just a common sense issue when something's brought to your attention that doesn't seem to necessarily make sense, that maybe we need to relook at it. So that's where I'm at.
Any further questions for the planning director? Okay, thank you, Jody. This time, we can either enter into board deliberation or,
I move to adopt the resolution establishing the updated planning and zoning fee schedule effective on January 1st, 2026.
Support.
motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Sikora. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say
That's a
aye.
resolution.
Resolution. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
Thank you.
Trustee Chapman?
Yes.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Trustee Cole?
Yes.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
Treasurer Bushka?
Yes.
I vote yes. Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Thank you, clerk. Thank you, Mrs. Seforia, for your work on that, and we'll circle back around on the special exception fee. Maybe that's just a part of the whole, perhaps, update for 2026 in general. Okay, next, we move on to item number 11, which is a few budget amendments. We tried to get them all done on the 9th, but when we went back, well, actually, when we went back and looked, the first budget amendment represents, as you all likely remember, for funds that are unused in a particular category, they need to get moved back to their appropriate carryover fund. And so the first budget amendment represents the carryover funds for the Fruit Belt Trail project that were unspent. Well, some of it was spent, but the project didn't get fully approved until 2025, and so these funds are rebudgeted in 2026, and contracts are all signed. So that's the first budget amendment. The second budget amendment is in preparation for the board-approved some additional staffing part-time for the legal department. And this budget amendment moves money that's currently in the 2025 budget from the legal filing fees into the capital outlay. And this is to purchase a desk and chair and mat for that incoming staff person. And I just want you all to know that we are using every desk, chair, cubicle, stick of furniture that we own. And so when we add people, got to buy some furniture for them to sit at and work at. So that's what this budget amendment represents. You'll see here the quote from West Michigan Office Interiors. So at this time, I'd entertain any questions board members have on this item.
The Fruit Belt Rail Trail, those are all the unexpended funds?
That is correct.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
So they're going back into carryover, then they're rebudgeted in 2026, and they will get spent down in 2026 because the contracts are all signed.
But those numbers are just what we did not spend, right?
That is correct.
That's less what we did. Okay. That's all I wanted to confirm. If you're ready for a motion, I'd make it. If you're.
Public comment?
Yeah, I'm go ahead and open public comment.
Oh, go ahead.
On our action. I've been, for anything we're taking action on. So at this time is an opportunity for public comment on item number 11, the budget amendments in the board packet. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on this item? These two budget amendments. Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment on item 11 and ready for a motion.
I move to approve the two budget amendments as presented.
Support.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Sikora. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we'll move to item number 12, which is discussion and consideration of the draft police protection agreement. So, it's been an interesting few days. I included what was the original draft contract. Sheriff Fuller and I had a number of conversations, and we agreed that a one-year extension that recognized that we needed to dig into expenses from their end and our end, but we would continue a one-year extension at the rates we are at currently. So what we received back that was drafted by county administration was the contract extension that includes paragraphs 3 and 4. And for the good fortune of our fabulous attorney, Jim, do you want to discuss sort of what transpired from there?
Yes, basically, the draft that came from the county presupposed that we would accept all their terms with regard to increased costs in the future, that we would pay 100% of all costs associated with cars, vehicles, staff, and the like, without taking into consideration any of the things that the township does in the way of providing office space, providing parking for the police vehicles, frankly, failing to recognize that our citizens already pay almost $1.7 million toward. We need to get better microphones. Sorry. I feel like I'm chewing on this thing now as it is. So basically, we wanted to have a fair and open discussion regarding the contract, and it felt as if what the county initially presented through its administration was a commitment that we would accept paying 100% of all costs without further discussion. That was not appropriate, and we refused to accept that, and so we returned to the county a extension of the existing contract, deleting all of that language, to which county administration initially objected, said they wouldn't recommend it or propose it to the board, but your supervisor got on the horn and talked to the sheriff and talked to the county administration, talked to the board and some of the board members, and then they relented and said they would accept the extension as prepared by our office, which is nothing more than we accept the increased rates for the coming year, but as far as the contract, everything else will remain the same for 2026, give us the chance to sit down and talk. This has been a sort of an ongoing issue for local units who want to bring additional police protection to their community. But the battle's always been that, cities don't hire additional staff, and the ones that do, should they subsidize it? Should they, what should the cost be? That's always been an ongoing debate at the county level. But your supervisor stepped up and said, no, we're going to have a fair and open discussion. We're not going to simply take your extension with a, predisposed to pay all the expenses that you put on the table.
So, that's where we're at right now. So what I am proposing is that we sign the cleaned up red line copy that eliminates that language that could have potentially bound us in a way that was at a disadvantage to the township. I will say the conversations around this were positive, and as far as everybody, I think from the township's perspective, and the county's perspective, the right people are going to be around the table to talk about what we believe our investment level is versus what they believe their investment level is, and start from a clean slate. And we've committed to start putting dates on the calendar, as soon as we start turning the new year, to crunch through those numbers in a meaningful way. So it was a lot of good teamwork this last week or so to get us where I feel like we can move forward soundly, knowing what our expenses are going to be for 2026.
So as somebody who sits on the police committee, I think it's very clear to everybody up here that I support our police and our fire 100%. But even I thought that was, to say that it's a reach to expect us to incur 100% of the vehicle fees for Oshtemo Township, given the totality of everything else, I absolutely, as you are aware, was not in support of. So I was prepared to have a lengthy discussion on this topic tonight, so I'm very glad to see that there's at least a resolution in the interim in extending our contract for 1 year. So if there's no other comments, I'm prepared to make a motion, but
I do want to comment. I'm glad that we were able to get a cleaner 1-year extension. We got to get all of the options back on the table. We've had this issue before with the sheriff's department, and it took us getting to the brink of starting our own police department to get the necessary concessions to have the right amount of equity for the township, to have these dueling, obligations to police protection, where we're paying the general rate to the county that the county commission sets, and then we're paying for our own dedicated service. So if we're going to do this, we got to walk and chew gum at the same time, prepare to negotiate hard, and prepare that police committee to look into starting our own force. Because the projections that were given to us when we investigated this last time were accurate. It was $2.4 million to start a police department, and it was going to be roughly $1.1 million to run it thereafter. And we've roughly paid exactly that amount to the sheriff's department. So just want to speak that into existence so that anybody that's listening is aware that we've got options here in Oshtemo, and we're going to explore them.
Sure. And I'm grateful for all that pre-work, which happened prior to me coming to this position, and thank goodness all that work still exists. So I feel like we're not starting from ground zero,
right.
Which is a good place to be. Certainly we'll have to go back and reevaluate the costs and the numbers, but, we're in a better position as far as at least understanding what our options are, besides just signing another contract in the future. Any other comments on this?
I'd just like to thank you for doing the extra work there and pushing back. I know the board totally supports that. I think everyone in the community is paying enough for police protection, and we're paying extra now for this contract. So I think we're all glad that you took the lead and pushed back on that and are working with it. We really appreciate that. I know, I just thought like a question would be, other townships are in a similar position. Have we considered, having a group effort to get the county to adjust the way they want to treat us folks here on the township? And that, is that anything that's talked about or thought about?
Yes, it's been discussed.
Okay, thank you.
And to put a finer point on that, as both partners in negotiations with the sheriff, but as potential future partners in its own policing entity, I think we have to keep both parallel conversations going for this to be effective.
Are you ready for a motion?
No, I'm going to take public comment on this item.
Yeah, I forget about that.
That's okay. At this time, if you would like to speak on item, sorry, I moved my agenda. Item number 12 regarding the police contract, now is the time to provide public comment.
I'm intrigued. I always wondered why Oshtemo didn't have its own police department. And hearing that numbers would be almost on par, or pretty close, I'm sure numbers have changed wildly since then, I like hearing that that could be a possibility for Oshtemo.
Any other members of the public wishing to make comment on this item? Okay, I'll close public comment on item number 12. Any further board deliberation?
All right, then I will make the motion to propose that we extend the current police contract for 1 year.
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Cole, second by clerk Farmer. Any discussion on the motion?
I have one question. Is that the correct motion? Are we extending the current deal, or do we have a new one-year deal in front of us?
We're extending the current one for 1 year.
Right.
It's not changed, but there's step increases and such in here.
But that is correct, but we budgeted for step increases anticipated.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're
Yep.
saying the right
Nope.
things.
That's
Step-
the,
yes.
that's the only change, just
That's
the
the
step
only
increase.
Okay.
change that's in their CBA, so.
Okay,
it's
fair.
absolutely,
Understood, thank you.
yep.
And I just have one small thing. It was to the citizens out there. Sometimes I get grumpy when it comes to things being last minute. But looking at the date our contract ended and the terms that were coming up, I didn't say a word earlier and did not complain about getting this last minute because of the urgent nature of it. But I hear the concerns and I try to bring that up, but there was a very valid reason in this case. Thank you.
Let's see. A motion by trustee Cole, second by clerk Farmer.
We're ready?
Any discussion, any more discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Keep you updated. The county board will not take action until their second meeting in January because they don't do any business their first meeting in January. Okay, next item number 13. I'd like to welcome for presentation our Public Works Director, Anna Horner, and she's going to lead us through why we are pursuing 185 bonds, what they're for. There's a lot of information in your packet concerning that, so we've heard this before, but just in case.
Good evening. I don't have a slideshow presentation, but I am here to present the memo and the information that was in the packet. So our neighborhood sanitary sewer expansion projects that have been going on for just almost a decade. We have obviously had some significant delays, and we are always trying to be agile in how to meet the residents' needs, some of the feedback we've gotten from them, but keep the projects moving forward. So we've done some things like just do one project, which was West Main and 7th Street, which we did in 2024. We did close on some of our bonds in 2025 and pursued 2 more neighborhoods. We've been through with the board on kind of how we prioritize neighborhoods as well. We look at the size of the lots. We have the information from the county health department on what number septic some of those lots are on, which indicates to us they're starting to run out of room for another system. We also have been coordinating with the road reconstruction. A road with no maintenance when it's brand new, sand, gravel, asphalt should last 30 years. We do a lot of preventative maintenance with our road commission to get those to 50 years. And we definitely don't want to, cut that life cycle short by having to install utilities halfway through that lifespan or even less. So that's what we spend a lot of our time in Public Works doing, is looking for opportunities to move these projects forward. We've talked to the board numerous times about different strategies on how to get these forward. We've sent out surveys. I would say that we get anywhere from 3 to 10 calls a week, or people stopping to pay their taxes and then asked to talk to Public Works because people want to know the status or they have questions about the projects. So it is still a lot of the traffic that comes through the Public Works Department is these projects. I put in the memo that of the 2 neighborhoods that we got done this year, before we could even get the legal notices out that the sewer had passed all of its permitting requirements, we had people asking to come in and get connected and sign agreements because they had been trying to get their septic systems to last until there was another option. So we do have 6 people that have already come in and either paid their fees or signed installment agreements to get connected before the end of the year. So that project is definitely already being put to use. So as we have talked with the board, and I tried to specifically mention some of the project
the specific dates that we talked about, not just presentations about sewer or just about infrastructure, but specifically about the different funding options that we've talked about with the board. I listed those in the memo, and there's, about 5 of them that are typical, I would say, for a local government to pursue. They all have pros and cons to them, but one of the ones that had the most favorable feedback from the board was using the Board of Public Works at the county through Act 185 to issue capital improvement bonds. And so over the course of the last, 4 months, we've been working with our bond counsel. So we have a specific attorney just related to the bonds that we're issuing. We have a municipal finance advisor that actually happens to be the same municipal finance advising firm that the county uses, Benzinski. And then the county has a different firm that they use for county bond issues. So we've had a lot of parties to get involved in this process to make sure that we understand it, to make sure we know the timeline and the requirements, and to then understand the financial obligation that would be taken on by the township. So I did a kind of introduction to the project to the Board of Public Works at their September meeting. They asked for some additional follow-up, which was presented at their October meeting. And then kind of as a courtesy, we asked if they thought they would be supportive of our project if we came to our board and asked for a resolution to use the Act 185 bonds. And the overall consensus from that group was favorable, that the project met the purpose behind Act 185. So we've gotten through that steps in the packet. It shows all those steps, so it outlines there's coming to our board, there's going to the Board of Public Works, there's going to the county board, and the dates start to get out there, so this is going to take a few months to get through. And really the first step in what we're looking at tonight is the resolution to request the county assistance so that they can start working with us to understand the terms and start to get more of the details behind the financing in place with the cash flows that we have similar for USDA. Right now, the municipal finance advisors are using, costs they've seen in projects recently, and the terms that they know that we would be able to get of 30 years. So they will be able to finalize some of that stuff as we get through the process. So this resolution is just to request assistance as we go through getting our permits and going out to bid. Then the actual budgets will be finalized. We use engineers' estimates to start. And again, this is all in the memo, but we would be looking for $15 million for a 30-year repayment from the county Board of Public Works. Again, we're estimating a 4.5% interest rate. The county, because of their size and their, it's not a grade, it's a credit score or a credit rating, that is a little bit better than ours would be, so they would get even a better rate than us too, which is why we would go through them. So I wanted to highlight that the resolutions still include the original neighborhoods that we had in Phase 1, like Beach and Sunset and Meridian, that we weren't able to get done this year, so that if costs come in very favorable, we'll be able to add those. We have already had them permitted, so it will be pretty efficient to get them added and through construction. Let me see here. Our schedule for Phase 2, so we're calling Phase 2 Country Club Village, which is the neighborhood on the south side of West Main, south of 10th Street. And then it has Lodge Lane, Clubview Drive, Horizon Heights. And then Westport, which is mostly between H Avenue and 131. I'm sorry, H Avenue and West Main, 131, or 10th Street and 9th Street. So that is one of the largest areas to get done. And so we have our design and construction documents done. We have half of our permits, we're waiting for the road commission's responses, and then we've been working through property acquisition, which we have most of that resolved. And so we are still looking to bid early this year and see those projects through construction in 2026. This is all in the approved budget, both the remaining USDA bonds and the Act 185 bonds. I think the good thing about these steps is that if something arises throughout this process, we did note all the times that public comment is going to be available because these are open meetings, as well as it would give us the chance to look at whether we needed, how we want to structure our projects. So part of it is that the county will be approving all of our construction documents as well to make sure that they agree with their conditions for issuing the bonds. For example, we won't get into construction until all the bonds are signed. You know, that's going to be a condition that they want to see specific for their types of bonds. So, I know there was a map provided as well. And I included the information that I provided to the BPW members based on some of their questions. I don't know if there's anything else to add at this point, unless there's specific questions on some of the links or.
I just would like to ask if Jim could give a quick overview of the 185 bonds compared to the USDA bonds that I'm a little more familiar with. Like, what are the mechanics of them comparatively? Are there?
I would say the mechanics are basically the same. It's simply the organization that you're drawing the bonds through. Again, the county has the borrowing power. They have a credit rating that would be superior to a smaller township, and therefore there's a big advantage going through Act 185.
If I was a commissioner at the county and I was asked to approve these, what would be like the risk take for the county in this situation?
Virtually none, simply because they will be backed by full faith and credit of the township. So
Okay.
There's really no risk to the county.
Unless the township were to default and everybody moved away and there was nobody left to tax, that would be the only way that the county would be liable.
I would hate to put it this way, but I will anyway, and that is when you issue municipal bonds like this, there's virtually no chance of them not getting paid.
Right.
Because if for some reason something happens to the budget, you can literally levy a tax to pay them. That's not what this township's going to do. They're going to fund it through.
I just wanted to understand
fees
what risk, if any, was like liability that county would have to take on
I would
in
say
case the commissioner calls and asks.
virtually none.
Okay, thank you.
And my understanding to that too, because Anna and I have had a few conversations about this, is the county will exercise the same level of fiscal responsibility in evaluating whether or not to take on our bonding that we would do. So they have their own municipal finance and attorney and all that stuff. So they're gonna do their due diligence to make sure we can pay it back as well.
On that note, the USDA bonds are usually pretty favorable because of the low interest rates, and we still plan to bestow those USDA rates to all the properties that are going to be required to connect. So in the cash flows, it will all have the right interest rates for the different bond amounts, but we are going to use the terms of the USDA project, which is 40 years and a little bit lower of an interest rate. I think it's 3.125. If somebody wants to set up an installment agreement through their winter taxes, that is still going to be consistent for all of the neighborhoods in these USDA projects.
So I have a question. Is this resolution asking them to go ahead and start figuring out all the financials of that? Because I haven't seen anything to do with those. Or is this resolution saying, yes, we want this bond?
It's to start the process. So, but we've had Benzinski run the rough numbers, just I wouldn't have come here if they weren't going to agree to that first, but this starts the process. So they will have those cash flows. We usually get like 4 or 5 pages that you've seen before. Those will be able to be finalized because now they'll know the timing of what rates we'll get and everything. And so those will be one of the first steps that we issue. This resolution is just asking the BPW to support the project so that we can start moving down that path. And we will incur costs from the county for their attorney and their bond counsel. So they want us to start this process so that they can incur those costs. And then I assume we'll start to see bills as they get billed. But that's my understanding of, this is really the first step so that they can see it as a project on their books.
Okay, thank you.
Can the county public works bonds be petitioned or protested and/or referred to a ballot?
Not under Act 185, no.
Okay, I just want to understand, thanks.
And we're still looking at the funding, the additional funding, keeping the current connection rates that we stated.
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
That is correct.
Thank you.
And that's
So those won't
a
fluctuate.
significant commitment by the township and the board to try to continue to make these connections and projects as affordable for residents as possible.
Yeah, I know we've spoken about it a lot. I just wanted to make sure that it was stated that we are going to keep the connection fees as we have them, so.
Can you remind us, okay, let's say, I get this is just the first step in the process. The board passes a resolution, requests the Kalamazoo County Board of Public Works. Let's say the whole, we get through all the process. I don't remember, how many connections are you expecting in phase 2? I don't remember that number.
Oh, I think it's 724.
Okay.
It's right around 700.
Okay.
The 24 might be plus or minus 1, but, yeah, so the Westport neighborhood is like 600 homes.
Okay.
So it's a big, big project. Yeah.
And that doesn't include if we could do beach and,
Correct.
okay.
Yep, there's not as many connections on Beach or Sunset and Meridian, they're just shorter segments, but, yeah, so we will, it is my intention to always, continuously evaluate how we can make these projects the best they can be. So again, we always look at opportunities for understanding our contract terms so that we set them up so they best serve the residents. We'll continue to try and hit the favorable times of the year to bid projects, reach out to contractors that we know are big enough for these projects, or throughout the bidding process, we get feedback from them as well about, well, did you think about, that the garbage truck is going to be able to get through this gravel road? And so that is our charge, is to continue to look at how we can make these as cost-effective as we can, but the costs are still there, so we're doing what we can to move them forward.
As I understand it, this is not a final commitment to go forward, but this is the next step to go forward. But you made an interesting statement I need more information on. You said that costs would be incurred and those costs would come in. I don't see anything listing them, so I'm very uncomfortable with a blank check. Did I miss the part that would talk about the potential costs that we
It's in the resolution, I'll show you.
I don't think anyone is proposing a blank check.
Well, as she said, we would incur costs, as the county would incur costs. And I just need a better idea how much those costs are before we sign off on
Sure.
something, as that is our fiduciary responsibility.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so on page 30, I also printed my agenda. So it was page 36, I think it's 38 now, maybe. But anyway, if you look at the resolution, it's the second page, item 5. So yeah, we will be reimbursing their costs. We have this in the budget to do. Again, we use the same firms, like Benzinski is both the municipal finance advisor for both entities. So it's typically how we have contracts with them too, is as we ask them to update cash flows, they do it, they bill us. We have a contract with them for an amount not to exceed. That's how our contracts are set up when they're directly with them. I can ask the county how they set up their contracts with them, but Public Works has been the department to lead the charge and to make sure that we're getting all detailed invoicing. So we do everything we can to review invoices, to understand the efficiency of what's being done, make sure it's applicable on the project. So I can assure you that it's not just a blank check. We spend a lot of time reviewing those things. And so this is, again, the part of it is that that's the county's preferred providers. And so those are the firms we're going to use. There is some overlap because we have used them as well, but we do have to incur to get this process rolling some costs.
And, oh, go ahead. I was just gonna.
saying thank you.
Okay. So, and those costs that we would be incurring, to follow up on trustee Chapman, are in a line item on our budget for this project, right?
For 2026, yep.
Yeah, okay. So it's not like we don't know how much it's, we have no idea and there's no money set aside to start this
Correct.
project. It's there and it's not a blank check, there's a certain amount of money in it.
Correct, yep. And we've been through these projects and
Yep.
this process on the USDA side.
Just wanted to make sure.
So
Thank
we
you.
have that for reference as well, yep.
If it makes the board feel any better, you're actually having two municipal bodies review the funding and make sure that these bonds are solid and can be repaid or they will not be issued.
Any other questions for Public Works Director? All right. Thank you, Anna.
I just want to add, I want to thank Rachel Grover, who came tonight, just in case there was questions for her, but she's the planning director for the county, and she oversees the Board of Public Works. And so she's helped try to get our timelines to line up and understands the county board meetings much better than I do, so it's been great to work with her, and I appreciate that, having somebody help put all that together.
Thank you. Okay, take public comment at this time. Is there anyone here wishing to make public comment on item number 13? Okay, I'll close public comment and we'll move into board deliberation. Any discussion regarding Anna's presentation before we move forward? Go ahead, Neil.
I'd like to thank the Public Works Director and Department for having presented information to the board about our desires for the future and how to address this issue, and to pursuing that, all the options, and looking into it and making sure that it's understandable for all of us, and working with the county to find a way to do this and get through it all. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the board does. It's something that we want to move forward on, and you're finding a way for us to continue to do that in a responsible way, and I just want to thank you and shout out for that.
Thank you, Trustee Sikora. Any other comments from the board?
This wouldn't be necessary if the project had been completed in its normal scope.
That is correct. This project is $15 million additional.
The delays we incurred as a result of the political chaos around this issue have cost us dearly. It's unfortunate, but it is nice to have an opportunity to move forward in the full scope of the project.
It's an important distinction.
If you're ready for a motion, I'd make a motion to adopt a resolution requesting county assistance regarding sanitary sewer system improvements.
Second.
I have a motion by Clerk Farmer, a second by Trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Trustee Cole?
Yes.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Chapman?
Yes.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
I vote yes. Treasurer Bushka?
Yes.
And Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 7-0.
Okay, check another one. Go down the list. This will be coming back to us again at some point for more consideration. Okay, next, we will move to essentially what is item 8A, the 2026 board and committee meeting dates, and trustee Sikora.
Yeah, I asked for this to be moved so that we could have a little more board discussion on it, in particular that related to the budget. We find that we get into these discussions about adopting the budget and what's in the budget and reviewing the budget, and it seems like we come down to the last day where it's, well, we have to decide today, and there isn't enough time for us to continue a discussion or fully understand what's going on. So there was a proposed meeting date schedule, and I'd like to suggest that we take the budget-related ones and move them at least a month earlier so that we have more time to go through it, and we'll have time if things change in the meantime to make any adjustments. And so that was the main reason I was bringing this up, was so that we would change that calendar, because we keep talking about that we don't like the calendar, but we never do anything about it. So I'd like to suggest that next year we move those dates up, whatever dates work for everybody, but at least giving us an extra month to go through all this and come up with a calendar of responsibilities of who's doing what and what's due when. It seems like we spend a little extra time on things like the accomplishments, goals, and visions, where if we're doing a budget item, we could be spending on the time more on, well, what do we need in the budget versus what did you do last year or the year before? I think we could still be provided that information. I think it's important, but I don't know that we need to spend time on a presentation on it, perhaps simply in an email or something like that, where as board members, we review them, it's our responsibility, and we come prepared for the discussions. Those are just a couple ideas. I think CIP plan is also something that needs to be done and included in this. I think we're required to have that updated or whatever, but keep the board more informed on that, especially as if we're going to add big projects like this into our budget. So I brought that up just for discussion here.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I appreciate that. I guess I share the sentiment that I don't appreciate how we've in years past felt like we're up against the deadline with the form for the tax rates at the county. Don't want us to have to budget with a fixed number per se. We should budget judiciously, but our budget is what we believe the community wants and needs, and then the rate should be what needs to be to get there. But sometimes we kind of say our rate's this, is there anything you can do? And I want us to be a little bit earlier in that process, so that if we get to a point where maybe we have to adjust our rate up or down, we have a little bit of time to chew on that instead of just one night or one packet, and one get together. We want to be able to have a feel for that, a couple of meetings in advance of that form being required to be signed off on.
So the form is always due September 30th.
Yeah, so if we could have our budget like finalized, if you will, or close, very close on that 1st of September, that would give us 2 full meetings to dial in where the rate needs to be that we send to the county. And I mean, it's not a perfect solution. I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here with ideas, piggybacking off of what Trustee Sikora is sharing, but it's a measurable goal. If we could try to get to a meaningful point of done by the 1st of September, to give ourselves 2 meetings to discuss rate setting.
So we can certainly put that pin on the calendar, okay? And I will say, I believe I moved all these up at least
You
a
may
couple
have, yeah.
weeks. So, I think that what we should do is so number one, I was hoping we'd have a finance manager by now, who would be able to do some of that forecasting and like all of those tools that kind of help you early. That job description has been retooled and is coming back to the board January 13th or whatever the first meeting is. So I think it would be beneficial to do some preliminary forecasting and then compare that with different rates to kind of see. Getting a almost complete budget by September 1st is a hurdle. I mean, I think we could get a good draft that maybe we add to or take away from. But I just want to create, or like, spell the reality to you. Now, if we have a finance manager that's experienced in municipal budgeting, could be a totally different story.
Sure. It
So
feels reasonable though, but like September 1st, we could be locked down on 85% of our budget and just looking around at a few things here and there, whether or not they're gonna go.
If that's what you want us to shoot for a draft budget by September 1.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's fine.
okay. I mean, I'm not the whole board here. This is just an idea, just one random date I'm throwing out there.
Sure. Hold on. Let me go to the September meetings. So we've got September 8th, September 22nd. So actually, we would need to pass, or we need to agree on our L 4029, September 22nd, the September 22nd board meeting.
Yeah, so currently we have a budget meeting after that day, which, I mean, is fine if you're just like nibbling on this project or this project for the next year, but if we're doing harder planning activities that might spur more than 1 year, it makes it very challenging.
Maybe we should shoot for October, considering we've got the joint boards meeting in September. And I don't remember where AGVs were. Oh, those are in July.
So, and Neil, I appreciate the AGV. So here's, from a supervisor's perspective, the value of AGVs. I don't think for experienced department heads, they are particularly super time consuming. I do think two important things. One is it requires someone to sit down and compare year over year and then plan into the future what someone thinks they can do in their department or wants to do. It's often a time and conversation because I meet with people before they come to the board about their aspirational plans and like, where does that fit into the rest of the departments in the township? And then that also is often tied to money. So I think it's a valuable activity. And then the second part of that is we have amazing staff here. And so the other thing about the AGVs is, and if you want to just get them in a document in your email and do that, that's fine. But I like giving our department heads an opportunity to shine for what they've accomplished and what they envision for their departments in the township moving forward. So to me, that is a benefit. I think that it is not only good for the board to hear, but it also, I would think, would make one feel that their work is valued and acknowledged. So that's just with regard to the AGVs. And we can think about a different process. I'm not opposed to that at all, but I do think it serves a purpose.
I don't object to the AGVs themselves so much. It's more of taking up the time to read me their presentation that they have on a slideshow. I don't think that's a good use of their time or my time. I view a lot of that, though, as more of like an evaluation of job performance for an annual review. Okay, this is what I did, and this is what I'm going to plan to do this year, or whatever. That's more of a, and that's not, we're not evaluating their position. I think they report to you, the supervisors, so I think that might be helpful for you. But certainly, if there's something important that needs to be shared, they should absolutely do it, regardless, anytime that they want to be here. I would just, the feedback I've gotten from people trying to come up with things, and then, they're sitting around here when they could be home with their family, when they could have just sent something in or highlighted something for us. I guess I would disagree that it's the best use of everybody's time and energy. They can still do it internally. That's, between, you can still do it and share it electronically and do something internally. They should be continually evaluating. But pretty much most of the department heads, I think, have been around here for a couple of years. We all know them now. We know the quality of their work, so I don't know that they need to. That's just my opinion.
I think I kind of share that sentiment. I like the idea of giving them the opportunity to express themselves, share that with us, but again, reading us the thing that they emailed us, probably not the best use of time. However, if the department head for a department whose budget we will be discussing during budget meetings could be present for those, that would be helpful, I think, as well. Maybe more so than just doing the AGV meeting with them. We could get their AGV electronically and then have their participation and availability for board discussion during their budget.
I kind of like having the opportunity to ask questions, though. I do. I like to be able to ask questions about it, so maybe we can find a way to shorten it, or maybe they could, we have the AGVs, so they don't have to go through the entire thing. Maybe they could highlight some things that they've done that year that they were proud of, and things that they're proud that they're looking forward to, completing. And then we could ask questions on the AGVs that were sent to us prior, if we have some.
Yeah, I think that, I'm not trying to say that they shouldn't show up at all. I'm just suggesting just to show up to, read us a list of slides.
Yeah, no, you're
or whatever
asking for it
seems
to
like,
be
that's not the best. But yeah, I
more
agree
meaningful.
with,
Yeah.
Trustee Ford's comment about if they're available that day, because we know we're discussing this, great, and then they know it's a limited amount of time and what they're there for, and we've already reviewed their information, so we should have
Yeah.
all our questions and stuff, so.
No, I hear
I'm
you.
not
I think you're just
yeah,
asking for it to
absolutely.
be, the time to be spent in a more meaningful way, I guess. In support of that.
So what I've got so far is AGVs, so this is what I've heard so far. AGVs just as documents to the board members, and then possibly, and then have whatever budget we're gonna discuss, have the department head present for their board, for their discussion of the budget that night.
Yeah, which would be a great time to ask them questions about the AGV we'll have in hand, and then they'd be there for questions regarding any blue line items that we're discussing. I feel like in this past cycle, that would have been useful to us. I don't have a concrete example, but I felt like there were times where we were all kind of thinking around it. It would have been nice to have the department head present.
Michael? Dusty? Michael, is it just because you can't talk because you're afraid you're gonna cough?
Yes, partly that is the case.
I'm sorry. Dusty, any thoughts?
What about this idea of moving the budget discussions up by a month? Are we really talking about moving them from June to May?
The only thing that I think we could possibly do meaningful in May that might not need its own meeting is some potential forecasting, evaluating different millage rates. The notion that the department heads are gonna have a well-formed start on a budget in May is,
Unlikely.
that is not likely.
So I think, from my perspective, it's not about when you start, it's about when you finish. So I guess I don't care if you start on August 30th, and as long as it's done by September 1st with quality.
So it sounds to me like then the July 15th AGV that was set up specifically for department heads, that we can cancel that one?
The 24th? Is that what we're talking-
July 15th.
Oh, July. Oh, yeah.
I think it should still be a budget meeting, even if it's just one department or one section or.
So keep the July 15th meeting, but just change it from AGV presentations to further budget discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't cancel budget.
But instead of just sitting through the EGV presentations, let's chew on that budget with them.
Well, I think
Or with
probably.
whoever will be there.
Yeah, I mean, there are some budgets that come together easily.
Sure.
The legal department, the assessing department, some of those that, but public works, parks, maintenance, much more complicated,
Yep.
takes a lot more time to put it together, so.
Absolutely. And if there's a way for us to track our progress on this as we're going, obviously it's not done until we vote the whole final thing through. But if we've got a department who's got a very low effort budget for next year, put it in, we'll lock it down, we'll have a visual somewhere that says that part of the 26 budget's done. Just for us to understand where we're at and what we're working on. It can be a cover sheet that comes with our budget packets.
So by the time you guys see a budget that's ready for final form, Dusty, Claire, and I, with the accountant and each department head, have gone through that process.
Oh, okay. Well, give us a nice visual then, that'll be easy.
Okay. Okay, so going back, so keep June 24th.
I have
July.
a suggestion.
Sure.
Rather than try to eliminate, why don't we, or you, I should say, it's kind of your schedule, but take the August 30th end date that we've discussed on my right side, and work backwards, right? And so to take some stuff off your plate, make an assignment of this person's budget, like from History, I know that Public Works and Planning usually have to go last because of everything that's coming in for estimates, right? So they would go at the last August meeting, and then a couple of departments or a department, and work your way backwards.
I think,
To find a start time.
I think David and I already put dates on departments' calendars already.
Okay.
Like that work has been, if not completed, it's well along its way about when, so that departments are aware of where they need to be in the timeline, and so smaller departments go first and bigger departments go later. But I think so we have to approve the Form L4010 on September 22nd.
And we could discuss changes then on that day.
We
So
can
you
still
could
make
use-
changes to the budget
Yes.
before September 22nd.
So your 2 September meetings could be smaller discussion on the same day as a regular meeting based on what's left, yeah.
If there's any implications to rate.
Right.
Sorry, yeah.
So the other date that isn't on here that you should be aware of is the public hearing could go November 10th, depending on how quickly we get it done, or the latest it could go is November 24th. So what I would like to do, though, is I do want to kind of come to an agreement about changes, or if you will accept, and Neil, you had there was another board meeting that I think fell by a holiday you wanted us to talk about?
Oh, that was just a kind of a wish list, as someone who likes to enjoy their long weekends, having to review a board packet and then show up on that Tuesday after the Memorial Weekend when I've gone out of town or whatever.
So is May 26th the Tuesday after Memorial Day?
I believe it is.
Okay. So is anyone interested in moving May 26th to, oh, look I brought a calendar, go me. Is anybody interested in moving the May 26th meeting to May 27th or May 28th, I guess? No, we can't do the 28th, there's a planning commission meeting that night.
And that's just a personal preference. I like to respect everybody's time. If there's staff or something coming in to make a presentation or have information, I'd like to respect that. I'm perfectly happy, well, not perfectly happy, I'm willing to review my board packet and everything over the weekend like I typically do, but I was just trying to, I had all these other suggestions, I thought I'd throw that one out there too.
Sure. Well, it's on the table for discussion. Is anybody interested in changing the 26th to another date?
I'd be fine with it, but I don't have a preference of which direction you move it. But if you didn't move it, I wouldn't be upset either.
So there's
Yeah, no,
well,
that's
there's
fine.
another one. So Labor Day appears to be Monday, September 7th, and our first meeting in September is the 8th.
Would you find it helpful if they were only moved by one day? Or are we talking about
Sure.
moving them by a week?
No, just,
Kick it
I
to
mean, one
Wednesday.
day would be fine,
So both of those could be moved to Wednesday.
as long as everyone's available.
That can work for me.
Whatever's easiest, and it's just a suggestion. I mean, if it's too,
Accommodating.
if it's too hard to, or if nobody else feels that way, well, then that's fine, just, I'll live with it. It's just like I would like to, be able to enjoy my long weekend, and I know people who travel for their long weekend or, go to, another place or family or whatever, and it's like, well, I'll throw that out there for discussion.
I have a different thought, if I may.
Yeah.
And I thought about talking about this at the retreat to see what people thought. The city has a 2-week meeting packet notice where they get their packet 2 weeks before the actual meeting date. I think that's pretty extensive. But what if we did where the meeting packet has to be to the board the Tuesday before the Tuesday meeting?
That has been tried and it has
You
never.
know what? I invite any of you to come do a packet with me for a whole week. I invite any of you to come sit in my office and try to herd all of the team together, point it in the same direction, over a specific agenda, gather all the items. So if we had a person specifically dedicated to keeping on top of that, yes. Even with David's assistance, although it's improved and it's getting better, it's still, we've worked every week or every packet you've been here trying to get it out on Thursday, and something comes in late.
But the question I have about that, and I'm sorry for being gruff, both my cold and my attitude, is it emergent? Because
Almost
if
always,
it's-
yes, they're time sensitive. Yes.
Well-
I'm sorry that you don't like that answer, but that is the truth, Michael.
I don't necessarily see that in the late minute changes that I see a lot don't seem to be critical and that time sensitive. And if it is time sensitive and we have a date set, then people will be motivated to do it. Otherwise, it's going to be not done. Because I think the public deserve it and we deserve it. And if you miss the date, you miss the date. If you know in advance this is the hard cutoff date, I bet you people will make it. Excuse me.
Well, I want to clarify something here. It's not as if our staff is out lollygagging and doing whatever and not getting their packets in, or their items in for a packet. Typically, it's because they're waiting for something else from someone else. This isn't just staff wasting time, and any implication of that is not well received by me.
Let's
Not
get
to
back
say this isn't an important conversation, but can we reel back to the dates piece of this?
Yes.
That's really what
Okay.
I want to know what changes. Because after we make the changes to this, I'm going to publish our schedule in
Yeah.
MLive.
I'm
And so
okay
I need
with
to
the
know what we're
calendar
doing.
as presented, if we could, to accommodate what trustee Sikora proposed, if we wanted to move those 2 meetings that are coming off of a Monday holiday to the Wednesday of that same week, I'd be happy with that. Now, I don't know that we should put what the meetings are intended to be for on here, because I think we have some disagreement perhaps on when budgeting shall start. So perhaps it would be wise to remove the labels for the meetings.
Not the joint meetings, though. I'd like
Well, not
to-
the joint meetings, no, but the ones that are labeled budget or AGV.
I mean, I can bring back a separate budget calendar or send out a separate budgeting calendar for consideration
Okay.
so that we can approve the meeting dates for the board meetings tonight.
Well, okay, yeah.
couple of those.
Are you then going to also publish the meeting dates for your budget? Because if you don't, you're going to have to publish special notice every time.
Yes,
Okay.
but those probably, we won't get those board approved until January 13th. But I don't think that matters, because,
No, just as long as you get them published in
Yeah.
January.
okay.
Hang on, could you clarify this for me? So we don't have to notice these meetings because we're noticing
Because
them
I
all
noticed them at
once?
the beginning of the year.
Okay.
That's the way the statute.
Okay, and that's why when we call a special, we have to notice that specific one
Correct.
because it wasn't on this list. All right, thank you.
All right, so for edification, going back through my little paper calendar here, so we are changing Tuesday, May 26th to Wednesday, May 27th.
Correct.
And we are changing Tuesday, September 8th to Tuesday, or Wednesday, September 9th.
Correct.
We are removing the budget meetings as presented, we will take the budget and AGVs off of this draft.
Even on those Wednesdays? That's fine.
Yeah, so it would be just the regular session meetings and then the two joint meetings, which are March 17th and September 15th. And then I will bring a budget calendar back in January.
Oh,
I
okay,
probably will,
understand.
I will
Okay.
tell you, I'll send it out before then,
Sure.
because everybody needs it on their calendar soon.
Does the fact that the word budget's mentioned on some of those dates mean something specific or special for, like, legal purposes of the meeting
Oh,
notice?
no, that is, those are labeled that way because the entire purpose of that meeting would be to talk about the budget.
I understand that part, but I wanted to make sure that there wasn't
Oh.
also,
No.
no, okay.
But you would be limited to discussing the budget, not other things, unless you add those to the agenda in advance and all the board members have notice. So you're not supposed to,
Do business.
My question, I think, is do we have to special notice certain meetings when it's related to the budget? If so, when?
the final budget hearing at the end of the year.
Okay, so it's not important to us that budget is listed on the meeting dates, as long as it's on the agenda for the date of the noticed meeting, we can do any business we so choose, yeah?
Yes.
Okay,
If you just notice it as a general meeting.
correct. Why wouldn't we want to just notice all of these as general meetings?
Well, some people might want to show up thinking you're going to discuss other items, and if all you're going to
I
talk about
see.
is the budget, some people in the audience might think it's a big waste of their time.
Okay, the agenda would still be available ahead of the
True.
meeting. All right, I just don't want us to be confused or locked into what we're going to do on a certain day. We should have a little bit of flexibility.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
All right, so the dates, other than those two that we changed, the rest of the dates are staying the same.
The rest of the regular session days are staying the same, and the joint meeting dates are staying the same. We're gonna remove the dates that refer to the budget.
Oh, you're removing those dates. Okay, I thought. you
I'm
were
going,
just-
yeah, because I'm gonna go back and test the, kind of the calendar outline that's been requested, and as Claire said, backtrack from there, and then I will send separate dates for, see, I kind of like the idea that there are meetings held specifically for the budget.
I do
That's
too, but
all
I
we
don't think we
discussed.
know which days those ones are gonna be right now.
Well, she will in the first meeting in January, I think is
Yeah,
what
I
she's
want to
saying.
set them so that, I believe we often have too much regular work that needs to be accomplished
Yep.
at a regular meeting to try to do,
That and budget on the same. night.
Correct.
I agree.
okay.
That's fine. I'm fine with moving those two from Tuesday to Wednesday, and we'll keep all the other dates that are on there. Yes? Is that what we've said?
Regular session dates, yeah. And
joint
I will come back
And you'll
with
come back with an
a
addendum
budget
for
calendar.
budget. Got it.
Okay.
I'm on board, 100%. how to make the motion to that effect, but I would
I don't think
support it.
we
if
need a
somebody
motion.
did. Okay.
It's just board consensus. I put the board consensus is to have a draft budget by the beginning of September.
I thought we were setting the meeting dates in this agenda item.
Yeah, this was on the consent agenda.
Yeah, right,
Don't we have to accept the meeting dates for 2026?
yes.
That's what he was asking.
Oh, yes, okay.
So I still don't know how to make the motion exactly.
You just say, I move to approve the dates as discussed.
Yeah, there you go. I move to approve the budget meeting dates as discussed.
Support.
Any discussion on the motion? Any public comment on this item?
About time you quit. You got 4 minutes to go.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 7-0. Okay, let me find what's next. Oops. Okay, looks like we are at
Yes.
the second opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment at this time?
I don't mean to back up the bus, but I'm going to back up the bus just for a minute here. I found Trustee Ford's comments a little while ago over the sewer, the pointing the fingers at the residents, causing the delays and the increased rates, quite inappropriate. The notes on here show there was a significant objection throughout the entire township as to those connection fees. And it's pretty clear that there were better fiscal options for connections, because those were granted after that judicial pushback. Maybe those could have been granted in the first place. Maybe those options could have been explored in the first place and not forced residents to have to go through what they went through. I can tell you I've spoke face-to-face with several hundred residents over the last 7 days, and there's 2 major concerns. Actually, there's a lot more than that. One is the bus, and that's the way that's being handled. The second one is this sewer all the way around. I was not involved in the sewer connection. My property is currently not involved in that. But I have heard an awful lot about that. I've heard a lot of very sad stories. I've heard a lot of things that residents had to do to try to meet these connection fees and how hard they worked for all of their neighbors everywhere to get these connection fees to be reasonable. So Trustee Ford, I would ask that in the future, you truly think about what you say to residents. I know this isn't the first time for comments like that. So I would just ask in the future that you guys be a little more sensitive to that. Some of these connection fees that I heard from people are more than I've ever paid for a car. And some of those people already had new septic systems, and they were forced into this. So I would really think about that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment? Okay, very good. I will close public comment, and we will move to board member comments and committee updates. Let's start with Trustee Cole, just for fun.
Okay, I just want to say it's been an interesting year for this board. A lot of things we've had to navigate. Personally, I feel like I have experienced my own growth in certain areas, and I believe that this entire board has grown, and I appreciate even when we don't agree on things and see eye to eye. I feel like there's always been communication, and people are willing to see outside their prior perspectives, to see somebody else's, and I'm appreciative of that, and I wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Trustee Cole. Trustee Chapman?
Yes, first I would like to say to our staff, thank you for a good year. I appreciate all the work that you do and wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I say the same and extend the same to our community, whether they celebrate that holiday or others. I thank them for the year. I thank them for the opportunity to serve on this board, and I thank them for tolerance. And I say that because we learn as we go on. And sometimes we make mistakes, and I know I make lots. I make lots as a father, I make lots as a board member, and I try to learn from them, and I try to be transparent when I screw up. So I thank the community for its grace. There were some comments earlier, and I just wanted to, the gentleman had a question, I'm gonna do my best to answer it. You asked how much we get paid, I give it $228 based on my W-2 I just looked up. So I wanted to be transparent with you. Yes, the other question somebody mentioned in the community, it was a waste opportunity for the Planning Commission. I don't make the agenda, but I think it could have been an opportunity to have further conversation. So I'm trying to answer the questions that came up as best I can based on writing it down. So, but overall, I think that answered all of your questions as best I can. So I wanted to do that. And last, to the rest of the board members, thank you. I always enjoy some of our conversations, even if they get heated. And even if I do not agree with a viewpoint, I always will do my best to respect you as individuals. I don't have to agree with you politically to be a friend, to be an associate, and to be a neighbor. So thank you, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all of you.
Thank you, Trustee Chapman. Trustee Ford? Trustee Sikora?
Yeah, thank you. A couple things. If you haven't been following the activity on the planned youth sports facility, I encourage you to do that since Oshtemo surrounds the facility on 3 sides and will bear the brunt of the traffic from it since Maple Hill Drive will be the access to it. At last week's City of Kalamazoo Natural Features Review Board meeting, they recommended to their ZBA to approve 2 variances for the project. One variance would allow the applicants to preserve only 13.5% of the existing woodland when 25% is their minimum requirement. This remaining 13.5% would be further reduced with a potential extension of Maple Hill Drive through the property. And if you've ever been concerned about clear-cutting sites, installing huge parking lots and their effects on the environment in your neighborhood, I encourage you to follow this process. With Oshtemo surrounding the site and bearing the brunt of the traffic, we really need some active Oshtemo representation on this facilities board. Also, unfortunately, part of the fence at Genesee Prairie Cemetery was damaged by a car or truck. This has occurred before, and we only recently replaced the part of the fence this summer. And it's not just about the fence, there's also unmarked grades that are in that area too. I've chatted with our maintenance director, and he supports my suggestion that we engage with the road commission to resolve this recurring problem. Maybe we need a guardrail to protect that area, but any solution should include the road commission and not have us replacing fencing every year or 2 with taxpayer dollars. I have no committee reports today, and I wish everyone a happy holiday, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Trustee Sikora. Clerk Farmer?
Thank you. Just in response to your concern over the fence at Genesee Prairie, we are right now in the process of getting that replaced, but we're also going to go after the insurance company of the person who wrecked their car there. So it won't be at at our taxpayers' expense. And other than that, I just want to wish everyone a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Treasurer Bushka?
Yeah, so I've been having some thoughts that I need to process further. I'm not sure where to go with this, and I'm not looking for any kind of input tonight, but talking about sewers and aquifers and drinking water coming from the ground, my mind has been on the BEST project for a few weeks, thinking about runoff and how or if we can involve the city and the county because of, if there is runoff, does the city have the capacity to take care of the water from the runoff and remove those agents to turn it back into drinking water? And if they can't, or if it costs hundreds of thousands, then it affects the county as well because of everybody's drinking water within the county. So that's where my brain is with all of this. I'll probably start with legal early in the new year to kind of process some of that because I don't know what to do with that. But that's where my brain's been for the last couple of weeks. taxes are going smoothly. Everything's coming in, the payments can be made online. I do want to remind everybody that while online payments with a card bank can be quite expensive with the percentage interest rate, using a check is only $1.95. I've had multiple conversations so far in regards to that, because I guess some people aren't aware that they can change the drop down and pick the $1.95 option using the checking. So I look forward to work coming into the new year, and I want to wish everybody happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, whatever it is you celebrate it safely, and enjoy your time off.
Thank you, Treasurer. Let's see, I have a little bit of a list. Sorry, folks. Trustee Sikora, thank you for bringing up the Natural Features Protection Board work. I had an opportunity to speak with Jane Goth, the executive director, who's kind of leading that project in general through Discover Kalamazoo. And the recommendation of the Natural Features Board of the city is going before their ZBA January 8th. And so I couldn't get Jane here to do a presentation update to the board in a public meeting. However, she has offered the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th to any board members, and I'm sure public would be invited to, that want to come and get an update from her directly and ask questions. She's willing to meet with you. We can, 3 of us can meet at one time with her, so it doesn't have to be 7 separate meetings. And then I believe they're organizing something, which I will forward that to you as another option. So I will help facilitate getting those meetings scheduled. If you are interested in doing that, could you let me know if you're interested in meeting with Jane and asking questions about the status of the project before it goes to the ZBA for consideration? No one's interested?
You said the January 5th, 6th, 7th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be out of the state.
Okay.
Well, having watched the presentations that they made at the Natural Features Inventory Board, I don't know that there's additional information to be gleaned from meeting with Jane again about, there are no questions that I need answered.
Okay. Well, I just want to make
appreciate-
sure, I just
do
want
appreciate
you to know that door is open, and so if you change your mind, let us know and we'll facilitate that. Particularly for anybody who might be interested in going to that zoning board of appeals meeting at the city. So I just wanted to make sure that you, and I will bring Jane here for a full update on the progress of the project early next year for a work session, so you all can hear about the progress. Did that. I also want to let the board members know, since we discussed it at the last meeting, Anna attended in person the budget meeting for the road commission. I attended online. However, during public comment, I did notify their board, the Oshtemo's board was interested in hosting or having a joint meeting with the road commission board. They were open to getting something scheduled, so look for that coming as well in 2026. The vehicle garage fencing project out here is getting ready. Anna, when is it going out to bid? February? I think February, right? January?
February.
February, yeah. So that's getting ready to go out to bid, so that'll be exciting. Many of you probably saw in the news that the Michigan House clawed back $645 million worth of district grants, and our $1 million grant for our fire station was one of those. I will say that, as somebody who used to work for the state, all things are possible, so I'm hopeful that cooler heads will prevail and that funding will be restored. We happen to have a fully executed contract with the state, and I haven't talked to Jim about it yet because we've been so busy with other things. But gonna definitely take a look because we have a fully executed contract with Leo. We will go the extra mile to see if we cannot preserve those funds. Happy to report the maintenance department, after months of planning and waiting, supply chain is still an issue. The township administrative side of the building, we got our new generator the end of last week, and the maintenance director, the maintenance team kept that generator limping along for about the past year while we were waiting for the new generator to get in. That project came in under more than $10,000 than we originally budgeted for. And then, last but not least, I do want to look for the winter newsletter coming to mailboxes probably the first week of January. I believe they start going out in the mail December 29th, so they might not make it to your mailboxes until, the very first of the year. But the new winter edition of the newsletter is at the printer and getting ready to head out the door. And so with that, I wish you all a very happy holiday season, and we will look forward to seeing you in 2026. This meeting is adjourned.